Hey there everybody, it's markcrilley. I'm back with another How to Draw video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to draw 8 different emotions on the face of the same character. Now some of you sharp-eyed viewers will be saying 8, but there's only 6 faces. Well, this one I'm actually going to show you 3 different emotions all in one by erasing away. In fact, throughout this I want to attempt to get a little more subtle. You know, I've covered this topic before, but I want to show gradations of emotions, show you how an artist might tweak things. So enough of this gabbing. Let's go ahead and we're going to refocus around these first 2, and we're going to start to get into it. Okay, let's begin by just drawing a kind of a neutral facial expression, sort of emotionless, I suppose you'd say. And the key is with the eyebrows. All of these facial expressions, the eyebrows are a very important part of it. And if you want to draw a face that has almost no particular expression at all, you need to have the eyebrows a certain distance away from the eyes. The closer they come down, the more you tend to have an expression of concern, or sort of it intensifies emotion. So it's so hard in a way, in a funny way, it's hard to really do a face that has absolutely no emotion. You really have to do a super straight line for the mouth. And as you can see, the eyebrows not really tilting in any particular direction, and that gives us, I would say, sort of a neutral facial expression. But really what I want to do on this first one is to show happiness, and so I'm going to begin by, of course, curving up the mouth. Just, you know, it's funny how just the slightest little hint of a curve, and suddenly we see happiness in her face. And of course, it's also related to the eyes, and sometimes you'll see people sort of accentuate how the eyes are squeezing shut as a person smiles. And of course, you can open the mouth a little bit, and the more we see the teeth, the sort of traditionally, the happier the person appears. But I'm not going to go too far. We can show you, in a way, what happens when you try to go too far. I'm going to do this lightly because I don't want to leave it this way. But when you think, oh, I want her to be really happy, so I'll just give her a really big smiling mouth. Well, you can already see it starts to look weird, right? Because you've gone maybe a little too far. You've gone beyond human anatomy to a type of a smile that certainly in this particular drawing style looks strange. So I would say maybe this is about as far as I'd be willing to go for the open-mouthed smile. And notice that I don't draw lines for the teeth. That can be distracting and tends to emphasize the teeth a little too much and make them look like they're gritting their teeth or something like that. So let's move on now to the second one, and I want to show embarrassment. And the reason that I've put these side by side is embarrassment is very much like happiness until you get to the eyebrows. And I could actually try to copy this mouth more or less exactly the same as I did over here. And you'll see that when I add curving eyebrows that curve upwards to the center of the face, immediately she begins to look embarrassed, shy, maybe apologetic. All of these things could be conveyed by way of this. And the more the eyebrows curve upwards, the more the more you have that feeling of insecurity, embarrassment. It is important to get these eyebrows close to the eyes, though, sort of like they're squunching in. The eyebrows are squunching. Is that the appropriate verb? The squunchification of the eyebrows. So by having that come in close to the eyes, it just intensifies this look of embarrassment. Of course, the ever-popular blushes can become a part of this way of conveying embarrassment. She's going red in the face. And you can even do the classic sweat drop. She's so nervous, she's actually sweating. Some people feel like this is going a step too far towards cartoonishness, but it's certainly a possibility in the realm of manga. But isn't it interesting that the mouth is more or less the same? All we've changed is the eyebrows, and suddenly she seems to be embarrassed. Let's move on to the next one in this row. It's going to be a look of sadness. Now, interestingly, you get a sort of a similar effect here. When you're drawing sadness, I could draw these eyebrows more or less exactly the same. as I did in the embarrassed face. And until I draw the mouth, you wouldn't have any reason to believe that these two facial expressions were going to be any different. But of course, when you make the mouth into a bit of a frown, even just a slight frown, you can see dramatically we read these expressions differently. Here has that cute sort of shyness, embarrassment. Here she just seems a little bit sad, maybe a little bit disappointed. And as I said, one of the things I wanted to do with this video is to free myself to erase and begin to show what happens when we really go farther with that frowning mouth. Maybe make her pout a little by showing the lower lip, just a touch. You'll note that I avoid drawing the lower lip or any indication of the lips generally for all of these drawings, except for this one, I think, because of that idea of someone pouting. And you can play around with, the degree to which, what if the eyebrow is really curving upwards in a rather dramatic way? Does that intensify the feeling of sadness? Sometimes people will actually get a wrinkle, like the brow is furrowed a bit. And of course you can resort to actual teardrops in the eyes. I feel like this sort of thing is cheating a little bit. You're getting into the emoticon realm or emoji sort of thing where she's sad, so let's draw tears, But anyway, you can see that if I did want to have her sad to the point of tears, I would still try to keep it subtle. These days, or in the manga tradition, you can go real cartoony, but it doesn't fit in with this style, right? Because she's got a relatively realistic-looking face. Maybe I can do a separate video that handles this same topic, but with chibi characters, and then we can get into the fun of those more exaggerated ways of portraying. But hopefully this is reading as genuine sadness or disappointment for you. Let's move on to the next two in the lower row. All right, for this one, I want to show a look of anger, and interestingly, within the manga style, sometimes it's a little difficult to tell the difference between a look of anger and a look of determination. And indeed, angry determination is often what is being conveyed, when there's the confrontation between two foes. But you'll notice again, we're doing the sort of classic angry eyebrows. The keeping them close to the eyes is important, and you can do, as we did a moment ago, this sort of indication of a wrinkling of the eyebrow when someone is truly angry. But of course, the mouth becomes a big part of it. But it is interesting that you don't have to go too far in the direction of a frown. Like this is barely curving, but the eyebrows are enough for us to see her as angry. Of course, the farther we go, the angrier she's going to appear. I wonder if we can get away with the lip there. I get real cautious with adding any indications of the lower lip. But let's see what happens when we go a bit more cartoonishly down with the line of the mouth. To me, you can just about get away with that, but it is getting quite cartoonish. I suppose you almost need the lower lip from that point of view. But those of you who feel like that's going a little too far, you might want me to sort of revert. And this is, in a way, I'm showing you the preparatory work that cartoonists do. Sometimes they play around with these different levels of anger before settling on, just how angry or just how determined should she look in this particular illustration. Anyway, hopefully that shows you a couple of different variations on anger. Now I want to show how you would draw a look of sort of mischievousness or sassiness. And I put these side by side because they both involve the sort of same angry-looking eyebrows. In fact, for now, I'm going to make this one more or less the same. Let's go ahead and just imitate all of the lines that we did a moment ago, recreating them on this face. But as soon as you change the mouth to a smile rather than a frown, she starts to certainly not look so angry as kind of like she's up to something, or she's about to wink at you or something like that. Sometimes I find that if we give a slightly lopsided smile, that can add to this feeling of sassiness. Now, what I wanted to show you, though, is to get rid of this eyebrow, and instead of just doing the angry eyebrow, do an actual arched eyebrow, which is, you see it in real life, actually, or in movies or something. The person who can really raise an eyebrow like this and get a little bit of a hook in it, that really conveys this feeling of mischievousness, sassiness. I need the line there, I think, to add to that. But it is sort of interesting that the eyebrows can be fairly similar between these two, but depending on the direction the mouth heads in, you end up in quite a drastically different realm of emotion. And now it's time to move on to this last one, in which, as I promised, I'm going to show 3 different emotions all on the same face. Now with this one, I'm sure all of you noticed I didn't draw the eyes, and that's because I want to first show a look of surprise. And when you want to draw a character that appears surprised, then you definitely need to get their eyes wide open. And it all kind of comes down to the degree to which you see the iris of the eye. You see the whites of the eye on all sides of it. The iris becomes sort of isolated from the rest of the eye. I'm starting with the eyebrows before I get to that. Keeping them more or less the same thickness as in the other drawings, but maybe creating more space, maybe longer from side to side, so as to leave space for a couple of irises that are, as I said, able to be seen on all sides. They are isolated in the white of the eye. And once you do that, that really signals to people a level of surprise. Now what I wanted to show is that let's say we get just a couple of lines down here, just a little bit to show the lower eyelash or eyelid. I'm going to go ahead, let's go ahead and move to the eyebrows. It's funny how this alone can convey quite a lot of the feeling of surprise. But of course, raised eyebrows, and the eyebrows, the higher up you go with the eyebrows and keeping them far above the eyes, that becomes a big part of conveying surprise. And I guess I'll go ahead and do a small puckered mouth. So in a way, you've kind of got 3 different things. It's different from some of these other ones in the sense that I didn't have to change the eyes so much. To do a look of surprise, you really need the isolated pupils, the eyebrows high above, and then a puckering of the mouth. I think those are the 3 different things that cartoonists use for conveying a smile. Now what I wanted to show you is that if you really wanted to go whole hog with the look of surprise, you could make these pupils really tiny. And that's why I thought we could have fun. I mean, sometimes you'll see this level of super exaggerated tiny pupils to, in a kind of a humorous way, convey this look of complete shock. And part of it is just, as I said, the more white of the eye you can see, the more wide open we read this, these eyes, that your drawings, and interpret that as to mean, boy, this person's eyes are as wide open as they can possibly be. Of course, it is very exaggerated, and let's try going back to, we'll split the difference between those 2 versions and end up with still a sizable look of surprise on this face. Now, what I wanted to show you is how we can take this look of surprise and turn it into a look of confusion by taking one of the eyebrows and bringing it down like so, and having it maybe a little angry or just a little curved. And this has this immediately, with one of the eyebrows raised and one of them sort of coming down almost angry style, it adds to this feeling of confusion that a character might have. Now we can try making a genuinely angry eyebrow, see what happens with that. I'm going to person is confused but also concerned, I suppose. You can get into, it's interesting to play around with these things. You know, you can end up with subtle variations, different levels, different types of confusion. So yeah, play around with that. If you want a character to look confused, you get this asymmetrical thing going on with the eyebrows. And the last thing I wanted to show you was a look of fear, which also involves the same types of pupils isolated within the whites of the eyes. But what you do, instead of just doing simple raised eyebrows, you do these sort of apologetic or sad-looking eyebrows and have them higher above than I was doing in the other ones earlier. And this conveys this feeling of being alert, shocked by whatever it is they're seeing. But in order to make it really look like fear, you've got to change this mouth. And that's what I'm going to do right now. And this is one of the rare ones where I'm going to have the mouth kind of wide open to the point where we actually see the teeth. And, you know, I'm not going to pretend that this is going to convey a look of absolute horror or terror or something, but at least we're heading in the direction of fear rather than simple surprise or confusion. I think in order to show absolute terror, I'd have to sort of erase all of this and redraw it in a different way. Maybe I can save that for another video. But there you go. There's 3 different emotions, all in this one last face: surprise, confusion, and fear. All depending on, really, the eyebrows are a big part of it, but as you saw, the mouth played an important role in that last emotion. Let's pull back so that we can see all 6 of them that remain visible anyway. Sadly, those last 2 are going to have to be lost to history because I erased them away. But let's compare the 6 different remaining emotions, and then I'll have a few final words. All right, so there you see 6 different variations, 6 different emotions, all on the same face. Of course, many of my viewers would really throw a fit if I didn't add blushies. I know we have already some pre-blushied emotions going on right there, but I'm going to go ahead and add blushies just because there are people out there that can't, they just can't live without their dose of blushies by way of a Crilly video. And you know what? I think they sort of work in every one of them. Don't you agree? Give me just a moment. I'm going to grab my books so that I can say thank you to anyone who has supported me by getting them, like Mastering Manga, my book on how to draw in a manga style. Lots of information, actually, about drawing emotions in this series. The Chibi book, my book focusing 100% on Chibi drawing styles, and my latest book, The 2-Pencil Method. I really cannot say thank you enough to those of you who choose to support me by getting any of those books. But let's go ahead and lay down this pencil. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back with another one real soon.